What's up, guys? Edrone here, and today we're going to be showing you how to assemble the new Rotor Riot Flow Regular Edition Freestyle frame. Stay tuned. Alright guys, this is going to be my new Freestyle, basically my everyday basher frame. So for the longest time I've been using the TBS Source 1. I'll leave a link up here to the playlist for that frame and that build. And basically come to a point where I'm ready to change it up some. So I'm going to be sporting a whole new frame. This is the Rotor Riot Flow Regular Edition Freestyle frame. A little bit more premium than the Source 1, and I feel like the parts are going to be a little bit easier to come by, being that it's a little bit more of a premium frame. Now, this isn't going to be a whole new build. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and assemble this frame for you. I'm going to show you how to put it all together, and then I'm going to be taking all the parts from my Source 1 build and basically transferring them over into this frame. And I'm going to do a second video just showing you what it looks like all switched over, and then we're gonna rip this guy. This is going to be my basher, my everyday basher. This is going to be the quad that's going to go, in places where I don't want my other quads to go. So this is going to be something that gets thrashed about, bashed about. And yeah, so let's go ahead and take everything out of the bag and show you what you get. Once you take it out of the package, you're going to be having two sets of arms here with the little foam landing pads. You're going to get a bag of hardware and some standoffs. You're going to get a couple of these extra little reinforcing plates, camera side plates, and some extra plates for the front that's going to be called stiffener plates. And you get three large plates. So you have your main bottom plate, which this one has the press nuts in, and this is all chamfered carbon. This is going to be your other bottom plate. It's going to sandwich the arms in between, and this is going to be your top plate. This is going to be your little sticky gel battery mat pad. So it's going to help keep that battery into place. So let's go ahead and take all the screws out of the pack so we can see what we're working with, and we're going to lay everything out here so we can start to assemble this build. We have everything laid out, and this will give you a better idea of what you're working with here. So you actually have two different sizes of standoffs, so make sure you separate those. One's a little bit shorter than the other. Here's all your top plate screws, probably a couple extra little of the very short screws. You have some medium-sized screws here, and you also have these longer screws here. We're going to be using the longer screws first, and first step we need to do is we need to take this plate that has the press nuts in, which you can see they're already pressed into place, so that's nice. You don't have to actually do that like some of the other builds I've done. This is actually the rear of the quadcopter, and this plate is the front of the quadcopter. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and assemble these two plates, leaving enough slack to slide the arms in between. And that's going to be really easy to do because check these arms out. These arms actually have a slot built right in that's going to slide right through the screws that we already have in our two plates. And these arms, doesn't matter which way you put them in, they are the exact same. So you cannot put these in wrong. This is a True X frame, just so you know. It is a premium frame. It does have dual 30.5 by 30.5 and 20 by 20 stack mounts, just so you know. Let's go ahead and get our four innermost screws started first. So I'm just going to take these and feed it through the bottom here. See where these four screws are? Right here, you see how that lines up? So we're just going to feed this through, and we're just going to hand tighten just a little bit so we have a little bit of a gap there. And we're going to do that for the four innermost screws first. Just going to get them started. This actually is a very simple frame to build, the standard version. The slammed version, which you can actually change to later if you wish, all you got to buy is the hardware kit. And I can actually change this into a slam deck frame. It's a little bit more complex to put together, but still not that bad. Sorry, so now you have your 4 innermost screws. Now is the time to go ahead and take your arms, and you're just going to slide the arms in, just like so that the holes line up, like that. And then once you have that, now you can go ahead and attach your other screw that's going to come up through the bottom, through the arm, and attach to the top plate press nut here. So just like so, we're going to take our longest screws, we're going to feed up through the bottom, through the arm, and into the press nut. And I'm just going to put this on here just a little bit hand tight. That's going to hold that arm into place so you can go ahead and get the other arms installed. Very easy to build. We have all 4 arms installed. We have, at this point, we have 8 screws securing the 2 plates. So as you can see, very easy to go together. And if you look here in the center, the arms actually touch one another here in the center. So they're actually resting up against one another to give you even more support. So let's go ahead and tighten these guys down. I'm going to be using a 2mm hex driver to go ahead and snug these down. Now you can use Loctite, however, I have never used Loctite on any of my frames and I've never had an issue. So just make sure you really crank them down, especially if you're not using Loctite. And then, yeah, this frame actually is really well thought out. I like the way it all goes together. It's very simple. And I do like the fact that it is individual arms versus one whole bottom plate. I like the option to be able to change arms on the fly, especially if you have a broken arm. This is going to make it a lot easier to go ahead and change out arms and replace. We have the main part done, the bottom structure, and man, this thing definitely feels very, very strong. Look how thick those arms are too. That's going to be the biggest majority of the build done already. The next part, we're going to go ahead and take this plate here. This is the bottom plate stiffener piece. It fits basically one way, and you see even the little slots line up. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to stiffen up this front piece, give you some extra carbon for impacts. Now, what we need to do is take the 4 medium screws. We're going to go through the bottom, go through both plates, like so, and then we're going to take the longer standoffs and go ahead and screw those on. And I really do like these standoffs because they're actually the knurled standoffs. They have like grip to them. So if you go to add 3D printed parts, you're going to have that nice grip, so they're not going to move too much around on you. So go ahead and install the 4 screws with the 4 longest standoffs, and we're using the 4 medium-sized screws. I really like the fact that they've added this extra plate here to give some extra strength to the front of the drone, because as you guys know, the front of the frame always takes the most abuse. Okay, then we have 2 more in the rear. Go ahead and add your screws to the rear with the 2 longest standoffs. Just kind of screw them on there. And you should be left with this right here. You'll notice that we have 2 of the longest screws left, and that's not a coincidence. Those 2 screws are going to go in the back of the drone, these back 2 holes. As you can see, the screw needs to go through this bottom plate next to the arm and come up through the top and thread into the shorter standoff. Now, what's really cool about this is you see how that kind of sandwiches in the arm? It's going to give that arm even less of a chance of moving side to side because now it has that screw right next to it, giving it even more support. You see it gives you just enough thread to go ahead and screw down your 2 rear standoffs here. While we're here looking at the rear, this is something that's really nice about this frame. You get the 4 20 by 20 stack screws in the rear. Also, you get the 30.5 stack screws as well. So if you want to add, you know, a stack here in the back, you have every kind of mounting option you can think of, and you have multiple cutouts to run zip ties. Really like that they give you all these mounting solutions in the rear of the frame. Excellent. We're going to run that through the last 2 rear holes on the back of the frame, and we're going to go ahead and tighten up our last 2 standoffs. So there's your 2 rearmost standoffs. And install our 2 camera plates. Now you'll see that they have 2 smaller little gap pieces here at the top, and then you have 2 wider gap pieces. So the way they fit is the front little cutout here with the wider goes right through the bottom, and these actually goes through both pieces of the carbon and mounts flush on the bottom. And it locked in super easy. It was a direct fit, no problems there whatsoever. So you can definitely tell you're working with, you know, premium cut carbon here. So good job, Rotor Riot, on that. I'm going to go ahead and mount the second one, and of course it went right in flush. So now you have the 2 front camera side plates installed, which is going to give us even more strength. For the next part, you're going to take this single front top plate, and you're going to go ahead and mount it on the top here, locking in the 2 side camera mounts on either side, like so. You're going to install 2 of these smaller screws here on the top. Now, don't do these 2 back screws yet, because you're going to have to take your top plate and you're going to have to mount this on top of this front top plate. Now, here is a ding for Rotor Riot. So they're supposed to leave you 2 more medium length screws for this particular mounting part here, because you have to go through 2 pieces of carbon and into the standoff. As you can see, all I have left is these smaller screws. Fortunately, I've got plenty of extra hardware for me personally, but someone who may be new to the hobby and just picked up this frame, that's going to be a little bit of a pain not having those 2 medium length screws. So definitely want to check the quality control on that, Rotor Riot, please. Make sure you're sending the medium length screws, the 2 extras. So let's go ahead and mount. These screws are too small. I've already tried. They're too small. So we're going to need a longer screw. So luckily I have some here. So we can just go ahead and use these medium length screws to pass through the 2 top plates here. It just goes through the 2 pieces of carbon and into the standoff like so. That's a little bit frustrating there, but luckily I have extra screws, so I was able to make it work. But that's what it's going to look like when you get the 2 medium screws here going through both the top plate, the front top plate, and down through the standoff. And it looks really nice. I definitely do like this look. My only issue is I kind of wish that this top plate wasn't on top of this plate, because then you would be able to just remove this front top plate to get access to the camera in case you had to remove it or make a repair. But with this particular design, you're going to have to take this top plate off anyway to take this plate off to get to the camera. So I understand the strength aspect of it, but it would have been nice if these 2 plates were completely separate. All right, so all that's left to do is put the smaller screws in the last 4 holes. I'll say that the hardware that comes with the flow frame is decent. It's labeled. You can see it's stamped. So you're getting some decent hardware. It's definitely not, you know, like steel quality, not you know, the best hardware, but it's definitely not budget hardware either. So you're getting some decent hardware to go along. And as you can see, I'm left with 2 smaller screws, which should have been 2 medium length screws. Just want to go ahead and note that. But here it is, guys, all assembled. Let's go ahead and stick on our little battery gel plate here. And you're just gonna peel off this plastic, and we need to remove these little inserts here. And you know what? Save these little pieces of foam, because you know, you never know when you might want to use them to put underneath of like a VTX or a receiver. It's always nice to have this extra little bit of gel or foam pads. I've done it before where I've actually reused these little pieces to create like barriers between your frame and some of your electronics. So definitely don't get rid of those. You can definitely save those. And we just about got this ready to mount. And just go ahead and stick this on here like so. It should line up pretty much exactly like the top plate here. That looks pretty close. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of push it down. Make sure it's nice and smooth mounted in there. Push it down so it's sticking onto the carbon. And then we're just going to take this top layer and we're just going to peel it off like so. Boom. Okay, so it's not sticky. It's like a rubber. So it's going to have a nice grip to keep the battery up above the screws here on the top and prevent the battery from sliding. So yeah, it's not sticky, but it's got grip. So by the time you put a strap over it, it's going to secure it very well. Last thing we'll do is go ahead and put the 4 feet on underneath. And because I'm going to be using 4 individual ESCs, where I'm going to mount the ESC will be perfect to go ahead and put a zip tie around and secure these down even more just by having those zip ties on there. I do love the layout and having the option to run, you know, dual stacks in the back, as well as having your you know, your different mounting options here at the front. So you can run, you know, 20 by 20 or a 30 by 30 stack. There it is, all put together. This is the Rotor Riot Flow Freestyle frame, the standard edition. And you can see we got plenty of room for our electronics in here. It's a very nice looking freestyle frame. It's actually pretty light, lighter than what I was thinking. I don't have a scale to show you the exact weight of it, but I'm sure you can find it online. But definitely happy with the way it turned out. My only con so far is Rotor Riot did not include the 2 medium length screws that are to go through the 2 top plates to the standoff. I had to supply my own because they gave me 2 short ones instead. But other than that, I'm really happy. I'm going to be pulling all these parts out of my TBS Source 1 and installing them in the new Rotor Riot Flow Standard Edition. I'm very excited about flying it. And we'll be keeping you guys up to date on the channel. Link for this frame will be down in the video description, so check it out. There's a couple vendors that have it. I'll try to find the cheapest one I can. You know, Race Day Quads is a good vendor as well, Rotor Riot. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. More Rotor Riot Flow on the channel to come, so stay tuned. And until next time, guys, edrone out.